Professor stood at the entrance of the Galactic University's main building, her 4 eyes taking in the magnificent sight before her. The university was built from living crystal that grew from the ground in spiraling towers. Each tower held students and teachers from dozens of different worlds. The morning sun made the crystal walls shine with rainbow colors. She carried her teaching materials in a biopouch that hung from her shoulder. Inside were data crystals containing thousands of hours of research about how different alien species spent their free time. This research had taken her 15 years to collect, and it would help her teach the most important class of her career. Belonged to a species called that had blue-gray skin that changed color based on their emotions. Right now, her skin showed light green patches, which meant she felt excited and curious. Her people came from a world with 3 suns, so they had evolved 4 eyes to see better in the bright light. 2 eyes faced forward, and 2 smaller ones sat on the sides of her head. They were known across the galaxy as excellent teachers and researchers. They loved to study other species and learn about their cultures, had spent her whole life studying what she called recreational anthropology. This meant she learned about how different aliens had fun and relaxed when they were not working. As she walked through the crystal hallways, other teachers and students nodded to her with respect. Many of them had read her famous book called Joy Across the Stars, How Species Play. The book talked about the gentle and peaceful ways that most aliens enjoyed their free time. She remembered some of her favorite discoveries. The crystalline hegemony grew beautiful crystal gardens in their homes. They would sit quietly for hours, watching the crystals slowly change colors and shapes. This helped them feel calm and connected to their planet. The nebula weavers lived in space stations near colorful gas clouds. They would float outside their ships and dance slowly in zero gravity. Their bodies could glow with soft light, so their dances looked like moving stars. The whole community would watch these dances and feel peaceful. The thinking stones of Rigel were rock creatures who could live for thousands of years. They spent their free time creating long poems about the history of the universe. Sometimes, a single poem would take 50 years to finish. Other thinking stones would gather in circles to listen to these poems and discuss their meaning. Even the more active species had gentle ways of having fun. The aquatic zones loved to swim together in huge groups. They would create patterns in the water that looked like living art. The patterns told stories about their ancestors and their hopes for the future. Had studied 47 different species, and they all shared something important. Their idea of fun always brought peace, harmony, and deeper connections with their communities. No species ever chose activities that could hurt them or make them afraid. Fun was supposed to make life better and safer, not more dangerous. This was why she felt so excited about her new teaching assignment. The Galactic University had asked her to create a special course called Comparative Species Recreation and Social Bonding. Students from many different worlds would learn about how various species enjoyed their free time. The goal was to help different aliens understand each other better. But there was something even more exciting about this semester. For the first time in galactic history, human students would be attending the university. Humans were the species to join the galactic community, and almost nothing was known about their culture. Had heard strange stories about humans. Some aliens said they were incredibly strong and could survive in dangerous places where other species would die quickly. Others said humans could heal from terrible injuries that would kill most beings. There were even rumors that humans could run for many hours without stopping, which seemed impossible to most species. But these stories focused on human abilities, not human culture. No one had studied how humans spent their free time or what they did to relax and have fun. This was exactly the kind of mystery that made skin turn bright yellow with excitement. She had already planned to spend several weeks of her course studying human recreational activities. She imagined that humans, like all intelligent species, probably had beautiful and peaceful ways to enjoy themselves. Maybe they created art with their hands, or sang songs together, or told stories about their home planet called Earth. When she reached her classroom, arranged her materials carefully. The room had comfortable seating for 30 students and large viewing screens for showing research data. The walls could change color to match the mood of the lesson, and the temperature could be adjusted for different species. Her first class would begin in 1 hour. According to her student list, she would have 27 students from 15 different species. Most exciting of all, 3 of those students were humans. Their names were Sarah Williams and she practiced saying their names several times, wanting to pronounce them correctly. Spent the remaining time reviewing her notes about human physical characteristics. According to the official Galactic Community files, humans were bipedal mammals with 2 eyes and no natural body armor. They came from a planet with only 1 sun and a 24-hour day cycle. Their technology level was considered emerging, but they had somehow achieved faster-than-light travel much sooner than most species. The files mentioned that humans seemed to form strong emotional bonds with each other and with other species. This suggested they would probably have community-based recreational activities, just like most other intelligent beings. As students began entering the classroom, felt her skin shift to a calm blue color. She had taught thousands of students over the years, but today felt special. She would finally begin to unlock the mysteries of human culture, starting with the simple question of how they like to have fun. She had no idea that this innocent question would lead to the most shocking discovery of her academic career. The classroom filled with students from across the galaxy, watched as different species found seats that worked for their unique body types. The flowing ones, who looked like living water, settled into special containers. The tree folk stood near the walls where they could extend their root systems. The crystal beings sat near the light sources to charge their internal energy. Then the humans entered and got her first close look at the galaxy's species. They moved with a strange kind of controlled energy that she had never seen before. While most species either glided smoothly or moved in careful, measured steps, the humans seemed ready to spring into action at any moment. Was tall with dark hair and clothing that looked practical rather than decorative. Sarah Williams had lighter hair tied back in a simple style, and her eyes moved constantly around the room as if she was memorizing every detail. Had a relaxed way of walking, but noticed his hands stayed near his sides in a way that reminded her of warriors from other species. The 3 humans chose seats together, but not in the corner like many species preferred. Instead, they sat where they could see all the exits and keep watch on the entire room. Found this behavior interesting and made a mental note to research it later. She began the class by explaining her research methods. When I study how a species enjoys their free time, I look for patterns that show their deepest values, she told the students. Recreation reveals what brings a species joy, peace, and connection with their community. Several students asked questions about her past research. A student from the Harmony Rings wanted to know more about musical meditation. One of the crystal beings asked about competitive crystal growing. Answered each question while watching the human students carefully. The humans listened politely but did not ask questions. She noticed they whispered to each other occasionally in their Earth language. Her universal translator picked up a few words like interesting and different, but nothing that helped her understand their thoughts. Halfway through the class, decided it was time to address the topic she was most excited about. She turned to face the 3 humans directly, and her skin began showing patches of bright yellow that indicated curiosity and anticipation. I would like to spend some time learning about human recreational activities, she announced to the class. This is a wonderful opportunity to document the leisure culture of a species that is new to our galactic community. The other students turned to look at the humans with interest. Many of them had heard the strange rumors about human strength and endurance, but none of them knew anything about human culture. Sarah, and looked at each other in that quick way humans seem to do, was learning to recognize this as some kind of silent communication method. "We would be happy to share information about human recreation," Sarah said politely. "What would you like to know?" Felt her excitement growing. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "Please tell me," she said, "what do humans do for fun?" The question seemed simple enough. Every species she had studied could answer this question easily. The gentle swimmers talked about their group meditation pools. The sky dancers described their floating performances in low gravity. The mind weavers explained their telepathic puzzle games. But the three humans did that silent look exchange again, and this time it lasted longer. Rubbed his chin in a gesture that thought might indicate deep thinking. Sarah tilted her head slightly, made a soft noise that the translator could not interpret. "That's actually a pretty broad question," finally said. "Humans have a lot of different ways to have fun. Maybe it would be better if we prepared a proper presentation for the next class." Skin turned bright orange with delight. "That would be perfect. A comprehensive presentation would be extremely valuable for my research." "We could bring video footage," Sarah added. "Humans like to record their recreational activities, so we have lots of examples to show." "And we could organize it by categories," suggested. Start with low-intensity activities and work up to more energetic ones." The Way paused before saying energetic made curious, but she assumed he was just trying to find the right word in galactic standard language. Many students struggled with translation when discussing complex cultural topics. "Video documentation would be incredibly valuable," said. "Most of my research relies on written descriptions or simple images. Moving pictures would provide much more detailed information." She began imagining what the presentation might include. Probably humans singing in groups, like the Harmony Rings did. Maybe they created art together, like the Clay Shapers. Perhaps they had gentle sports similar to the floating games that the low-gravity species enjoyed. The thought of being the first researcher to properly document human recreational culture made her skin cycle through several colors rapidly. Her colleagues at other universities would be amazed. She might even win the prestigious Galactic Cultural Research Award. "How much time would you need to prepare?" she asked the humans. "1 week should be enough," said. "We'll need time to select the best footage and organize everything properly." "And we should probably provide some context," Sarah added. "Human recreational activities might seem unusual to species that don't know much about Earth culture." Nodded enthusiastically. "Context is always important in cultural research. Please include any background information that would help explain the social significance of your activities." The rest of the class continued with discussions about research methodology and comparative analysis techniques, but found it hard to concentrate. She kept thinking about the upcoming human presentation and what she might learn. After class ended, she watched the humans pack their materials. They moved efficiently, like everything they did had a purpose. Other students moved more slowly, often stopping to chat with friends or examine interesting objects in the classroom. "Professor," Sarah approached her desk, "is there anything specific you'd like us to focus on in our presentation?" "Just show me what humans consider enjoyable," replied. "I'm particularly interested in activities that bring communities together and help humans bond with each other." "Oh, we definitely do activities that bring people together," said with what she was learning to recognize as a human smile. "Some of our most popular recreational activities involve large crowds." "Wonderful," said. "I look forward to seeing how humans build social connections through play." As the humans left the classroom, she heard them talking quietly in their Earth language. She caught a few translated words like gentle, start easy, and prepare them. This suggested they were being thoughtful about how to present their culture to alien audiences, which showed admirable cultural sensitivity. That evening spent hours reviewing her notes and preparing questions for the next week's presentation. She wanted to be ready to ask detailed questions about whatever recreational activities the humans shared. She had no idea that the humans were spending their evening trying to figure out how to explain human ideas of fun to species that had never experienced anything more dangerous than competitive flower arranging. The week passed slowly for Professor. She found herself thinking constantly about the upcoming human presentation. She had even contacted colleagues at other universities to let them know she would soon have the first comprehensive data about human recreational culture. When the day finally arrived, the classroom was more crowded than usual. Word had spread about the human presentation, and several faculty members had asked permission to attend. Even the Dean of Cultural Studies, an ancient tree folk named Professor, had come to observe. Arrived early to set up the recording equipment. This presentation would become part of the official Galactic Cultural Database, and she wanted everything to be perfect. Her skin showed bright patches of yellow and orange, indicating high levels of excitement and curiosity. The human students entered carrying what appeared to be portable data storage devices. Had a small computer, Sarah carried a projection device and brought what looked like backup storage units. Their preparation seemed very thorough. We organized the presentation into different categories, explained as they connected their equipment to the classroom's main viewing screen. We thought it would be easier to understand if we showed examples in a logical order. Starting with the most common types of human recreation, Sarah added. The activities that almost all humans participate in at some point in their lives. Settled into her seat, her data pad ready to record notes. Around the room, students from dozens of species waited quietly. The crystal beings dimmed their internal light to see the screen better. The flowing ones adjusted their container shapes for optimal viewing angles. Activated the first slide, which showed simple text, Human Recreational Activities, a comprehensive overview. Humans have been developing recreational activities for thousands of years, began. These activities serve multiple purposes: physical exercise, social bonding, stress relief, and community building. Nodded approvingly. This introduction sounded exactly like what she expected from an intelligent species. The concepts of social bonding and community building were universal among civilized beings. The next slide showed images of humans gathering in large groups. Some were sitting on blankets in green spaces, sharing food. Others were standing around cooking fires, laughing together. A few images showed humans playing gentle games with small children. Many human recreational activities focus on bringing families and communities together, Sarah explained. We call these social gatherings, and they usually involve sharing food, conversation, and simple group activities. The alien audience murmured appreciatively. This behavior matched what most species did during their leisure time. The Harmony Rings had similar gatherings where they shared nutrients and sang together. The clay shapers met regularly to work on community art projects. Professor made careful notes. So far, human recreation seemed perfectly normal and peaceful. She felt relieved that the strange rumors about human behavior had apparently been exaggerated. Humans also enjoy competitive activities, continued, advancing to the next slide. Competition helps us improve our abilities and build stronger social bonds through shared challenges. The slide showed humans playing various games with balls, running in organized groups, and swimming in pools. Everything looked gentle and non-threatening. Several alien species had similar competitive activities that focused on skill development rather than conflict. These all look like excellent examples of healthy competition, Professor commented from the back of the room. Very similar to the improvement exercises used by the meditation masters of. The three humans looked at each other with that quick eye contact they seemed to use for silent communication. cleared his throat slightly. "Those are some of our gentler competitive activities," he said carefully. "But humans also participate in what we call thrill-seeking recreation. These activities provide excitement and adrenaline rushes." Tilted her head curiously. Her universal translator had some trouble with the term adrenaline rush, but it seemed to be related to elevated emotional states during exciting experiences. "Let's start with one of our most popular thrill-seeking activities," Sarah said, her finger hovering over the control for the next slide. "We call these roller coasters." The screen filled with moving images that made every alien in the room freeze in horror. Massive metal structures twisted and curved through the air like the skeletons of enormous dead creatures. Small vehicles filled with humans raced along metal tracks at impossible speeds, climbing to terrifying heights before plummeting toward the ground. The vehicles spun upside down, throwing the humans around like helpless prey. But the most disturbing part was the sound. The humans inside the vehicles were screaming at the top of their lungs. Protective dorsal spines shot up involuntarily as her species' danger response activated. Around the room, other aliens showed similar panic reactions. The crystal beings light pulsed in rapid alarm patterns. The flowing ones contracted into tight defensive shapes. "Stop the recording," Professor called out, his bark-like skin turning dark with distress. "This appears to show humans being tortured by some kind of mechanical device." But held up his hand calmly. "Please wait and watch the end of the clip," he said. "You'll see something important." Against every instinct, the alien audience continued watching. The mechanical torture device finally came to a stop, and the humans climbed out of their vehicles. But instead of running away or collapsing from trauma, they were laughing and smiling. Some of them immediately got back in line to ride the same device again. "I don't understand," whispered a student from the gentle folk species. "Why are they happy? Why would they choose to experience that terror?" "Roller coasters are designed to simulate danger while remaining completely safe," Sarah explained. "The fear response creates excitement, and overcoming that fear provides a sense of accomplishment and joy." Professor's universal translator started producing error messages. It could not find equivalent concepts in any known language for recreational fear or voluntary terror simulation. "The screaming sounds like distress calls," admitted. "But for humans, loud vocalizations during exciting experiences actually indicate pleasure and enjoyment." A student from the Harmony Ring species made a soft sound that indicated confusion and concern. "You mean humans seek out experiences that activate their survival instincts for entertainment?" "Exactly," said with enthusiasm, not noticing that his excitement was making several aliens move farther away from him. "Humans enjoy the feeling of their bodies preparing to fight or flee from danger, as long as they know the danger isn't real." Realized that her hands were shaking as she tried to take notes. She had never encountered anything like this in 15 years of studying alien recreational culture. Every species she had researched avoided activities that triggered fear responses. "This is just one category of human thrill-seeking," Sarah continued cheerfully. "We have many different types of activities that provide excitement through simulated danger." "There are more?" Professor asked weakly. The three humans nodded enthusiastically, completely unaware that they had just shattered the fundamental assumptions of galactic recreational anthropology. Professor looked at her notes, which now consisted mainly of confused symbols and question marks. She was beginning to understand why no previous researcher had successfully documented human leisure activities. This was unlike anything in the known galaxy. The classroom had become completely silent except for the quiet sounds of various species' distress responses. Professor noticed that her skin had turned a deep purple color, which indicated shock and confusion among her people. She tried to process what she had just witnessed, but her brain kept rejecting the information. Sarah stepped forward to take control of the presentation, apparently not noticing that half the alien students had moved their seats farther from the humans. Roller coasters represent just one type of mechanical thrill-seeking, she said in a cheerful voice. But humans also enjoy recreational activities that involve direct physical challenge and contact with other humans. Professor managed to speak, though her voice came out as a whisper. Contact with other humans. Yes, Sarah said brightly. These are called contact sports, and they're some of our most popular group activities. Millions of humans gather to watch these events and even more participate in them. The screen changed to show an enormous outdoor arena filled with thousands of humans. In the center of the arena, two groups of humans wearing heavy armor were lining up to face each other. They looked like they were preparing for warfare. This is American football, Sarah explained. Two teams compete to advance a ball down a field while the opposing team tries to stop them. Physical contact is not only allowed, it's encouraged. The video began playing, and every alien in the room watched in growing horror as armored humans deliberately crashed into each other at full speed. The impacts were so violent that the sound could be heard clearly through the recording equipment. Humans were knocked to the ground repeatedly, sometimes in ways that looked like they should cause serious injury. A student from the peace-loving crystalline species made a high-pitched sound that indicated severe distress. They are attacking each other. Why is no one stopping this violence? It's not violence, explained patiently. It's a competitive sport with rules and safety equipment. The goal is to outplay the opposing team, not to hurt them. But they are hurting each other, Professor pointed out, his voice shaking. I can see humans falling down and appearing to be in pain. Well, yes, admitted. Injuries do happen sometimes, but that's considered an acceptable risk for the enjoyment and excitement of the sport. Professor's universal translator began producing more error messages. The concept of acceptable injury risk for entertainment did not exist in any known galactic language. Perhaps this is an unusual example, she managed to say. Surely most human contact sports are less aggressive. Sarah shook her head. Actually, American football is considered one of the gentler contact sports. Let me show you boxing. The screen now showed two humans in a small ring, wearing only minimal protective gear on their hands. They stood facing each other with their fists raised, and then began deliberately trying to hit each other in the head and body. The goal of boxing, Sarah explained, is to score points by landing clean hits on your opponent or to win by knockout. Knockout, whispered a student from the gentle folk species. That means hitting the opponent hard enough to make them unconscious, clarified helpfully. Several alien students made sounds that their species used to indicate nausea. One of the tree folk's leaves began turning brown and falling off, which happened when they experienced extreme psychological stress. Humans voluntarily enter a confined space and attempt to render each other unconscious, Professor asked, her voice getting higher with each word. It's very skillful, said enthusiastically. Good boxers train for years to develop the technique and conditioning needed to compete effectively. They train to hurt each other more efficiently, Professor asked weakly. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds bad, Sarah said. But boxers have tremendous respect for each other. It's about testing your abilities against a worthy opponent. The boxing footage was replaced by something even more disturbing. Humans in a cage-like structure were using not just punches, but also kicks, throws, and what appeared to be methods of restraining opponents until they submitted. This is mixed martial arts, explained. It combines techniques from various fighting systems. The goal is to defeat your opponent using whatever legal methods work best. Legal methods. Professor's voice had become very small. There are rules, assured her. You can't bite, eye gouge, or attack certain vulnerable areas. The fact that such rules were necessary made the alien audience even more horrified. "This concludes our overview of group contact sports," Sarah announced. "Now let's look at individual extreme activities that humans enjoy." Professor wanted to protest, to stop the presentation, but her scientific curiosity was battling with her growing panic. She had to understand what she was witnessing, even if it challenged everything she thought she knew about intelligent life. The screen showed a lone human climbing the face of what appeared to be a vertical stone cliff. The human had no visible safety equipment, no rope, nothing to prevent a fall that would obviously result in death. "This is free solo rock climbing," explained. "The challenge comes from ascending difficult routes using only your hands, feet, and mental focus. Safety equipment would reduce the purity of the experience." Purity. Professor made a sound like wind blowing through dying leaves. "The knowledge that any mistake means death creates a state of perfect concentration," said. "Many climbers describe it as a form of moving meditation." Species had no concept for meditation through mortal peril. Her translator finally gave up and simply displayed symbols that roughly meant concept unknown error. The climbing footage was replaced by humans leaping from aircraft at impossible altitudes. "Skydiving combines the thrill of with precise timing and navigation skills," Sarah explained as they watched humans plummeting toward the Earth. "The goal is to delay opening your parachute until the last safe moment, maximizing the time spent in." They jump from aircraft, voluntarily, a student from the floating crystal species asked in disbelief. "The higher the jump, the longer the more exciting the experience," confirmed. On screen, a human opened his parachute extremely close to the ground, landing safely, but with what appeared to be only seconds to spare. "What happens if the parachute fails to open?" Professor asked, though she was afraid she already knew the answer. "Then you die," said matter-of-factly. "But parachute failure is very rare, so the risk is considered acceptable for the reward of the experience." The alien audience sat in complete silence, trying to process what they had learned. They had just witnessed evidence that humans routinely engaged in activities where mechanical failure or small mistakes resulted in immediate death, and they did this for fun. "These individual activities help humans test their personal limits and overcome psychological barriers," Sarah continued. "Many humans find these challenges deeply fulfilling and transformative." Professor realized that her hands had gone completely numb. In 15 years of studying recreational anthropology, she had never encountered a species that seemed to actively seek out mortal danger as a form of entertainment. "There's more, isn't there?" Professor asked in a voice like rustling dry leaves. The three humans looked at each other and nodded. "We haven't even gotten to the social activities yet," said brightly. Professor felt like her understanding of the universe had been turned upside down. She looked around the classroom and saw that most of the alien students appeared to be in various stages of psychological shock. Some had changed colors, others had retreated into defensive positions, and a few seemed to be quietly praying to whatever deities their species. But the three human students appeared completely normal and relaxed, as if they had just been showing pictures of flower gardens, instead of documenting the most terrifying recreational activities anyone had ever witnessed. "I think we should conclude the presentation here," Professor said weakly. "This has been extremely educational." "Oh, but we're not finished yet," said with genuine enthusiasm. "We still need to cover the social activities that humans do together in their free time." "Social activities?" Professor asked in a voice like wind through a graveyard. "You mean there are group versions of these death sports?" "Not exactly," Sarah said. "These are more casual activities that humans do for relaxation and bonding. They're not physically dangerous like the sports we just showed you." Professor felt a tiny spark of hope. Perhaps human social recreation would be more normal. Maybe when humans gathered in groups, they engaged in peaceful activities like other civilized species. Let's start with one of the most popular social activities, announced, haunted houses. The screen showed a building decorated to look old and frightening. Groups of humans were lining up outside, paying money to enter. As the camera followed them inside, the aliens watched in growing confusion as humans deliberately walked through dark corridors filled with artificial threats. Suddenly, creatures wearing terrifying costumes jumped out from hidden locations, making loud noises and threatening gestures. The humans screamed and ran, but then they stopped and laughed with excitement before continuing deeper into the building. "I don't understand," a student from the Harmony Rings whispered. "They are paying money to be frightened." "Exactly," said proudly. "Humans enjoy the adrenaline rush that comes from simulated danger. The fear response is exciting when you know you're actually safe." Professor watched as humans continued through room after room of artificial terrors, screaming and laughing in equal measure. Her translator was now displaying a constant stream of error messages, because the concept of recreational fear simply did not exist in galactic languages. "This is just one type of fear-based entertainment," Sarah continued. "We also have escape rooms, where groups of humans voluntarily lock themselves in confined spaces." The footage showed humans entering small rooms that were then sealed shut. They appeared to be trapped, with only puzzles and clues to help them find a way out before their time limit expired. "The psychological pressure of confinement combined with time pressure creates an exciting challenge," explained. "Teams must work together under stress to solve complex problems." "They imprison themselves. For fun." Professor Spark was now completely gray with shock. "It's temporary imprisonment," clarified, "and there are always safety measures in case of emergencies." The fact that safety measures were necessary for recreational activities made the alien audience even more disturbed. But perhaps the most popular social recreational activity is movie watching, Sarah announced. Humans gather in large groups to view recorded stories on screens. Professor felt relieved. Finally, something that sounded normal. Many species enjoyed storytelling as a group activity. This might be the first reasonable human recreational behavior she had documented. The screen showed the inside of what appeared to be a large theater filled with hundreds of humans. They were all watching a massive screen that showed. Professor's protective spines extended so quickly that they made a clicking sound. On the screen, humans were being systematically hunted and killed by various monsters, killers, and supernatural threats. The audience was watching their own species being murdered in elaborate and creative ways. "This is from a genre we call horror movies," explained cheerfully. "The goal is to create the maximum amount of fear and suspense while showing creative methods of eliminating characters." "You watch recordings of your own species being killed?" a student from the life-loving garden folk asked in a voice so quiet it was barely audible. "They're not real," assured everyone. "They're fictional stories performed by actors, but the more realistic and frightening they appear, the more entertaining they become." Professor watched as the human audience in the recording screamed, covered their eyes, and grabbed onto each other in terror. But instead of leaving or demanding that the disturbing images be stopped, they continued watching with obvious enjoyment. "Some humans prefer comedy movies or romantic stories," Sarah added. "But horror movies are extremely popular because they provide intense emotional experiences that humans find stimulating and bonding." "Bonding?" Professor sounded like he was having difficulty breathing. "Experiencing fear together creates strong social connections," explained. "Humans often attend horror movies specifically to have an excuse to hold on to each other and share protective instincts." The alien audience sat in complete silence, trying to process the idea that humans used simulated trauma as a courtship ritual. And that concludes our overview of basic human recreational activities, announced with satisfaction. Basic, Professor's voice came out as a squeak. Oh yes, Sarah said brightly. These are just the everyday activities that most humans participate in regularly. We didn't even get into extreme sports, military simulation games, or competitive survival challenges. We thought we should start with the gentle activities, added helpfully. You know, ease everyone into understanding human culture. Professor stared at her notes, which had devolved into increasingly frantic scribbles and confused symbols. In 15 years of studying recreational anthropology, she had documented the peaceful leisure activities of 47 different species. Every single one had focused on harmony, growth, healing, and community building through safe, nurturing activities. Humans appeared to be the first species in galactic history that had weaponized relaxation. Are there any questions? Asked the silent classroom. Professor slowly raised one branch-like arm. Do humans have any recreational activities that don't involve simulating mortal peril or psychological trauma? The three humans looked at each other thoughtfully. Well, there's gardening, Sarah said finally. Every alien in the room perked up hopefully. But even that can get competitive, added. Some humans create gardens specifically designed to grow the most poisonous plants possible. Professor felt something break inside her mind. She stood up slowly, her legs shaking, and walked to her desk. With trembling hands, she activated her personal communication device and began typing a message to the university administration. The message was brief. I hereby submit my immediate resignation from the position of Professor of Recreational Anthropology. Humans do not have recreational activities. They have survival training exercises for apocalyptic scenarios that have not yet occurred. I am not qualified to study the leisure habits of a species that practices dying for entertainment. Please assign this research to the Department of Military Psychology. As she sent the message, she could hear the human students behind her trying to reassure the traumatized alien audience. Really, those were the tame activities, was saying. If you want to see something really exciting, we could show you footage from our extreme sports championships. Professor gathered her materials and walked toward the door, her skin cycling rapidly through colors that indicated complete psychological overwhelm. As she reached the exit, she heard Sarah call out cheerfully. Professor, don't you want to see the video of humans jumping off mountains wearing wing suits? Professor kept walking and did not look back. Later that day, Sarah sat in the university cafeteria, genuinely puzzled by the reaction their presentation had received. Do you think we came on too strong? Sarah asked, picking at her synthesized earth food. I thought we were being really careful, replied. We started with the most gentle stuff we could think of. Nodded thoughtfully. Maybe next time we should begin with something really safe, like miniature golf or board games. None of them noticed the table of alien students nearby who had overheard this conversation. The aliens quickly finished their meals and left, presumably to warn their friends that humans considered roller coasters and contact sports to be their gentle, recreational activities. Within a week, human recreation studies had become the most feared elective course in the university catalog. Professor had become something of a celebrity in academic circles as the researcher who had discovered that an entire species used leisure time to practice dying. The three human students never did understand why they had such difficulty making friends with their alien classmates.